right, we got all our favorite things.
Sure did. I got a quad track, a Steiger, and some discs, and looks like...
I got a sprayer, and I got a disc, and I got a planter. Right. All we need is a banker.
I think we're good to go.
We just need a banker.
Here we grow.
All right.
We're growing 20 acres of soybeans for the first time, and we really don't know a whole lot about it. Thankfully, we have a co-op named Jimmy's letting us use some of his equipment, but we're gonna need to use our own equipment at some point as we get a little bigger after our first year of farming. So while we're here, gonna start getting some equipment. I'm here with Chad from Dacotah Bank. He's gonna helpfully give us some money, so that way we can afford our own equipment as we head a little further into Here We Grow.
Well, anytime we look at somebody's operation, whether they're starting, expanding, or whatever they want to do on it, we always take a look at some financials and do kind of a financial analysis of it, see what kind of crops there are, what their historical expenses look like, how that's all going to line up, average yields, things like that, and then, put a cash flow together and, we always have growers come up with their own, but you can use the NDSU extension budgets, as I think you guys have looked at to start off with, looking at this year to see what it would look like. We do the same thing as a comparison to make sure they're kind of in line and everything looks feasible and attainable and things like that. And then that's your cash flow budget, and then you look to see if there's a margin at the end, hopefully, for family living, payments for the equipment and stuff like that, and then you set up the budget and see where that's at, and then throughout the year, if you are purchasing new equipment or replacing, upgrading, or when you take out one of Jim's tractors and you got to replace it with something else, then we'll look to see what we can do to finance one to replace it for you.
Right. Well, I want to ask you a question. When it comes to people new, like say me and Dean, Bridgette's obviously been in the field for a while. We're brand new to farming. How often do you see that? People coming into the bank, they're like, hey, I want to get some land, I want to get some equipment, I want to start farming. What's that look like for the first time person? Or are you seeing a lot of just hand me down to the next person in line as people retire or end up unfortunately passing away?
Yeah, farming is very capital intensive, which is why we have financing options, banks such as ourselves that take care of those type of things. So you don't see a lot of, I'm just going to go out and buy land and equipment and go, just because of the capital being so, the dollars are so big on that. So you see a lot more, transition type stuff, whether it's, it within the family or a hired man after a number of years and there's no family members to come onto the farm. A hired man may take over when retirement comes along. So a lot of times you're drawing off of historical financials, crop history, and stuff like that. So you can come up with averages and just historical trends and things like that. And then with crop history, with the yields and all that is a big deal. And then along with the expenses, you kind of see how things work within that operation. So see a lot more of that than just the startup stuff, because it's so hard to just go out there and start.
So Chad, are we going to have to use older technology, kind of the older, smaller equipment, or can we get brand new stuff? Because Bridgette's got some fun stuff over there, and we got a tractor here that I want to get. We got our discs for tilling. We got to have a planter so that way we can put some big boy seed in the ground, 2,000 acres we're talking. We'll get a nice sprayer, maybe the Patriot, do a little spraying with that.
After the crop comes up,
when it gets down to that, we have wheels here. We got a muddy situation. Our field gets so muddy. We were already like 3 weeks behind on planting. Let's scrap this. Bridgette, I need the quad track. There we go. So we're gonna get this thing as well, and when it comes down to it, of course, we're gonna need a combine. And I don't know of anything better than if we had this big 8240. Thank you, Bridgette. So I think this is just about gonna wrap up everything that we're gonna need. Grain bins, probably optional. We're going big. Bridgette, give me some grain bins too. That way we can store.
If you don't forward contract, you got to store the crop.
So that way we can store some of the huge yield we're going to get next year and this year as well. Can we get this? You brought your checkbook for us, right?
Well, of course, we can fund a lot of things, but we're going to have to look at those financials, and maybe a character reference or two here and there might have to come into play. But yeah, we can always look at the cash flow and see what kind of margin's going to be there at 65 bushel beans. That's probably going to create a little bit of margin there if we can keep the markets up and be able to generate a little cash flow and a little margin, and we can take a look at seeing what we can add into the operation.
Sure, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really expecting big things out of this, but maybe jumping to all this might be a little ambitious. For most people who don't have the initial funds just getting into this, what are they going to be looking like? They're probably going to be obviously not getting brand new out of the box tractors, not a big shiny combine, 1,200 gallon sprayer. They're going to be using smaller stuff, and that's probably what most people end up doing as well. How long, operational wise, do you think it takes someone to get to this kind of equipment, brand new, top of the line technology, precision?
It takes years to build it up, to build up some equity. And when we're looking at operations and financing them, if we're financing the operating line with the expenses and everything, and kind of fully invested in the whole operation and financing it, you want to see some equity get built up so that you have more assets than liabilities. So you've got some good owner's equity in there. And then the other thing we like to see is some working capital in there, that your current assets are more than your current liabilities, so you can afford to pay your bills and all that stuff. And then hand in hand with that, as you build up cash and capital and equity, you've got cash to put down on purchases. So you don't want to finance, banks don't really finance 100% of the purchase. You want to have some cash down, and then
some collateral. So if you default on your loan, bank gets something back.
Yep, got to be able to. Unfortunately, if we do have to liquidate, that there's some room to be able to do that. But yeah, we certainly look at it more as a cash flow type thing. I mean, we want it all to work. We want the payments to be made. We want to have enough room and not put any stress on a grower.
Okay, so here's the good news is, company has got a lot of money. We're using Dean's credit. He's co-signing on it. I got him in the trunk, back seat to sign the line. So you brought the paperwork, right? We're going to obviously get the bigger boy stuff, but that isn't going to fit in this nice little box here. So I say we go sign some papers. Let's go load up all the equipment, put it in a shed for next year.
Absolutely. Load it up and we'll go.
All right, great.
Like, subscribe, follow us on Facebook and YouTube. Drop your questions in our comment box and we'll get back to you. Thank you to Titan Machinery for letting us use their facility today. Thank you to Chad from Dacotah Bank for loaning us the cash. Next week is going to be North Dakota's FFA convention starting June 5th. Support them like we do, because it's not just us. Here we grow.
Bridgette, what are you still doing? I got Dean to sign the paperwork. Let's go. We got our stuff.
How much are you buying?
Don't worry about it.